Hello there, wonderful people of the internet. It's Tommy at Hysteria Gaming HD, and today I'm bringing you a kind of techie video, bit of a nerdy one for my PC subscribers. I kind of logged onto my YouTube channel the other day and saw I had 708 subscribers, so I figured it was appropriate to upload a quick review video and an unboxing of my new graphics card, the GTX 780. As I was recording this video anyway for quality assurance purposes and making sure it wasn't damaged when I opened it, I figured it would be a nice thing to upload and kind of show you guys what you can expect if you're looking to upgrade your graphics card. For reference sake, the card I currently have and what I will be comparing this card to is the GTX 580, and that is the KFA2 1.5GB Anarchy Edition, and that is an overclock card. This card stacking up pretty nicely. It has double the memory at 3GB of GDDR5. We also have a 993 MHz base clock, which if you compare that to the standard GTX 780 of 863 MHz is quite an improvement. It also comes with a 1046 MHz boost clock, which is comparable to the 902 MHz of the factory 780. It is recommended that you have a minimum 600 watt power supply for this card. I was quite lucky that when I got my 580 it was a very power hungry card, and so I have a 850 watt PSU, and so I don't need to upgrade. But if you do have something under 600 watts, then this card should be avoided unless you're willing to upgrade your power supply. I shall be linking in the description some benchmarking reviews in case those of you who are kind of into your more in-depth benchmarks like 3D Mark, then I shall put them in the description. You can go and check them out. But for now, there are many suggesting that this card approaches Titan-like performances, which is obviously great considering the gulf in price, which we'll go into a little later. But I reckon now we should just check out what you get in this lovely box of goodness. To start with, you get this ginormous poster you can see. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it, but it's an EVGA gaming poster. Kind of has a Game of Thrones type theme to it, I suppose. Bit of a medieval swords theme going on. I'm guessing this will go in the cupboard. It's not really my cup of tea. I'm certainly not going to be flavour of the month if I stick that on my wall, but yeah, some people might want to stick one of them up. You also get the EVGA Enthusiast built stickers in case you want to pimp your case a bit, mod your rig, and stick some stuff on the side. Again, I'm not really convinced that's for me, but it does come with a small metallic badge, which is actually quite nice, and I think I'm going to put that on there. I'll show you that in a second. Here you see a DVI VGA adapter. Now this is the small badge, which I think I'll put on. It's a lot more discreet, and it's kind of a nice quality metal badge sticker. Obviously we get the mandatory Nvidia driver CD, which is completely useless because they're always outdated and you just go directly to the Nvidia website and get them yourselves. Manual full of foreign languages and only about 3 pages of English, because that's all you really need, and some 8-pin power connectors. Now let's get into the real deal and look at this beautiful thing. There is always a worry with any large card. If you're talking any 780, 580, 680, whatever, Titan, there is a worry that these cards are enormous, so you have to be careful that you check measurements and make sure they're going to fit in your case. I was not worried when I looked at the specs for this, because it's actually shorter in length than my 580. However, it is a lot wider, and I wasn't expecting that, so there was a momentary panic that I didn't think it fit in, but it does go in perfectly, so pretty happy with that one. Whilst I try and prize this thing out of this static wrap, I decided I should talk a bit more about some of the specifications of this card. I'll put some detailed ones on the screen now, but the gist of it, as I said before, is that it's 3GB of GDDR5 memory. It comes with a dual BIOS to experiment overclocking and custom BIOS options without doing any damage to the default BIOS, and it comes with a good support system for decent resolutions and refresh rates, such as 4K resolution and 240Hz refresh, although my BenQ monitor only does about 120Hz, but there you go, it's future proofed. And as you can see here, connection wise, you get DVI-I, DVI-D, HDMI and DisplayPort options. It also comes with a 3-year EVGA warranty, which is great considering most card manufacturers nowadays offer a 2-year warranty. It's certainly the case with my 580 and a lot of the other 780s I was looking at. Also, EVGA have a world-renowned I should say, support system. They're very well regarded in terms of helping people for RMA processors if anything goes wrong. And that extra year just gives you a bit of peace of mind considering that these cards are so expensive. When it comes to comparing the two cards for performance, I've used the same setup for both, so I've just switched the cards around. I'm using an i7 2600K processor of 4 GHz and 16 GB of RAM. The two games I've decided to choose are Assassin's Creed 4 and Battlefield 4. Now the reason I've done this is because both are new and graphically intensive games, but also both have some severe issues in terms of graphical performance, so this should be a good test of both cards. Assassin's Creed 4, both card setups have PhysX turned off, not because it affects the frames that drastically, although it does affect them obviously, but it causes for my system massive stutter pretty much everywhere you go, so the game's unplayable if you have it on. Assassin's Creed 4, whilst an amazing game, is very poorly optimized for Nvidia cards and I presume AMD as well. So we turned it off. And Battlefield 4, I think it's well known all the issues this game has. You get huge FPS drops, micro stutter, and all sorts of problems. So whilst this won't be the best test of the cards, this definitely will be a two of the latest games and seeing how they perform. So then, testing out the GTX 580, you can see here for comparison's sake I'm running Assassin's Creed 4 around 58 degrees centigrade after a couple of hours gaming. That's actually very low, I would say, but that does attribute to the fact that the card had a triple fan custom cooling setup on it. I'm also recording using MSI Afterburner because the 500 series graphics cards doesn't support Nvidia Shadow Play. Now, as I said before, PhysX is turned off, and I'm averaging between 35 and 40 frames a second. I mean, it does go higher in places, but it also dips into the high 20s at times. Now, that's not so much of an issue in a single player, but when it comes to Battlefield 4, that is a problem. And whilst you can see here, I'm averaging in the sort of green zone of the 60s on the 580, I'm also dipping into the yellow and red zones of the mid 50s and low 40s. And that becomes a problem. When you're playing a competitive FPS, you need every frame you can get. And the trouble with Battlefield 4 is frame drops are very frequent. And even with all the patches that have been implemented by DICE, you really do get punished for having an inferior graphics card. Not that I'm saying the 580 is inferior, it's a great card, but Battlefield 4 really seems to be setting it through its paces. So moving on to the 780, we can see here immediately that after a similar amount of gaming time, the temperatures are around the same as the 580, around 58 degrees. Slightly cooler. I think the highest temperature I've seen is 66 degrees, and that was after an all-night session of Battlefield 4. The frames here are pretty much locked, even though this is quite an intense fight scene. Pretty much locked at 60 frames a second. I have seen it go down to around 48 in areas that are kind of intense with foliage and kind of more demanding on the graphics card. But you can see that's an increase of around 20 frames a second, which obviously is excellent. Moving back into Battlefield 4, you'll really see here what I mean about frame drops with this card and just with this game in general. Quite an intensive shooting area coming up here, and the frames are holding around 120, which is fantastic. I think on the stairwell here I hit 170, but as you can see, I dropped down from 170 right down to 190, 80, 60, and it just, there's no consistency. And obviously that's not this card's fault, that is the design of the game, the optimization, whatever you want to call it. But obviously this is a huge increase on the 580, so that's really testament to how well this card's performing. And when it comes to a competitive FPS shooter, you really don't want to be dipping below 60 frames a second, and this card pretty much avoids that. You can see a couple of instances there it hits 58, and this is without me boosting the card in any way. This is just as it comes. I'm guessing that's on the boost clock setting because I'm guessing that's automated for when the card really needs it. But that's a huge help when it comes to playing competitively on Battlefield 4. So one of the most important questions people want to know is how much is it going to cost me? currently is actually a pretty decent time to get a 700 series card. Now the reason for that is with the introduction of the 780 Ti and the impending arrival of the 800 series. 700 series cards mostly have seen a drop of around 10% or more, and so this is why I decided to fork out for one. There is a temptation of course to wait for the 800 series, but first of all I'm impatient and I didn't want to wait, and second of all the 800 series will obviously be launched at full retail price, and so it'll be more money. This card's RRP is £450, which is about $735. I know there'll be my American subscribers who are thinking, damn, that's extortionate, but you have to bear in mind that's what we have to pay here in Europe. I mean, damn you US guys, because you get technology a fuckload cheaper than we do. So c'est la vie, that's what we have to pay, VAT and all of that. But I actually got this card on a daily deal from scan.co.uk for £415, which is $680, so about a $50 saving, and that came with a free copy of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which in my opinion is well worth £30 or £40 of anyone's money. So that seemed acceptable to me, and you have to bear in mind that this is one of the highest rated 780s on the market currently. The review I'll link in the description from Overclockers actually pits this against various 780s and rival cards, including the Titan, and outstrips this Titan in almost all the tests. So make of that what you will. To me, saving £200 on a Titan seemed like a very easy decision to make, where I haven't even touched the overclocking potential of this card because it's factory overclock, but there are people who are saying you can boost it considerably higher, and the overclockers people go into that. So there's a definite margin for improvement even on top of the beastly speeds that this thing promotes. Giving a summary for a card after only 2 weeks use is quite difficult, but my positives so far are obviously the increase over the 580 have been exceptional in my mind, and that in itself justifies the cost to me. Also the potential for overclocking seems very promising. I've read some reviews of people who have found safe overclock speeds, and with the dual BIOS you can tinker around with that a bit safely, and so that's definitely something to look forward to, but I don't feel I've needed to do that yet, so I've refrained from doing so. If I had any negatives, it would be that the EVGA is quite costly in comparison to some other 780s. I've seen some MSI ones for around £350, which is quite considerably cheaper, but in terms of performance, this card stands out from them by quite a long way, so it kind of really depends. If you want a top-end card, you need to pay top dollar. The only other thing is with the EVGA ACX cooler, it's touted as a quiet card and a quiet fan setup, and I would definitely disagree with that. I found the cards under boost clock speed is very loud. It has a kind of high-pitched whine, which I got a bit worried about at first, so I googled it, and it seems there's a lot of people saying the same thing, and so it seems fairly normal, but I certainly wouldn't tout this as quiet. But then I had a 580 before and that wasn't quiet either, so you know, large graphics cards with lots of fans, they are loud. But all in all, I certainly don't regret the purchase. I'll definitely update you guys in the comments if I find anything different about the card or anything of interest. I'd love to hear from you if you've got this card, or maybe a competitor, and how you're getting on with that card and how it's performing in similar games. And yeah, I hope this has been kind of helpful to you guys if you're considering upgrading your graphics card, and this is definitely one that I'd recommend to you. So thanks for watching guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Take it easy.